I'm tired of being sold, and I think most people are tired of being sold. And if you're completely honest with them and have a real conversation with them and hear them out with their wants and needs, you're going to have a much better interaction with them than you would be trying to follow the formula of a script.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, John Santiago, and each week I interview content creators about their stories, strategies, and experiences of building an online audience through video. Now, becoming a creator can take you to places you never would have imagined you'd go, and this week's guest on the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky has learned that for herself. Kristina Smallhorn is a Louisiana-based realtor in the greater Baton Rouge area. She's been creating content on YouTube since 2017. And for her first few years as a creator, she reached a small audience of only a few thousand subscribers. But in 2019, her channel, which now sits at just over 100,000 subscribers at the time of this interview, took off thanks to videos she made on the subject of alternative and affordable housing options. And these days, she's doubling down on that. Viewers continue to come in droves to Kristina's channel to learn more about those options, such as manufactured homes, modular homes, and tiny homes. And she also offers insight on the state of today's current housing market by live streaming with other realtors around the United States. And in this episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky, Kristina and I talk about her journey as a YouTuber and where she's come from and where she's going and where she's been. We talk about a bunch of different subjects, including why she decided to narrow her content down to a very specific subset of real estate, how to find a mentor when it comes to building and creating your YouTube channel who is both credible and reliable, and the free tools that she uses to create thumbnails that pop, and so many more subjects. We talked for about an hour and 20 minutes or so. In fact, I wasn't able to talk to her about everything that I wanted to discuss with her. So we're probably going to have to do a round two at some point, but there's so much wealth of knowledge to distill from chatting with Kristina. And I think that you are going to learn a lot from her about what it's like to go from being a small YouTuber to now a much bigger YouTuber. She seems to be well on her way to reaching potentially 1 million subscribers at some point in time. We'll be getting into that conversation in just a moment, but before we do, want to remind everybody to get a free copy of our script template. If you are struggling to structure your ideas, this is a resource for you. You can download it at www.videocraftshow.com and sign up to our email list. And when you fill out the form on our website, you will get a confirmation message that you are opting into our email list. And as soon as you opt in, we will deliver that script template right to your inbox right after you sign up. So let's go ahead and waste no time any further. Let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation and interview with Kristina Smallhorn. Kristina Smallhorn, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. It is a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we were just chatting here a little bit before we started the podcast. You've got a lot of things coming up on your docket here in the next few months or so, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I really want to chat with you, obviously, about your own journey into YouTube and how you got to where you are today. You recently, right, just hit the 100,000 subscriber mark. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have. I got my 100,000 subscribers. I even got my button. Now I'm at 110,000. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like it's a snowball effect, right? Like you get to 100 and then like getting to 10, 110 is like going from like 0 to 10 subscribers or something in the beginning, I imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of like a train down the track. You know, when the train first starts, it's very slow. You know, you could just, once that train starts moving, boy, it just gets easier and easier down that track. That's how I feel about it. Yeah,
exactly. So let's start in the beginning for you. Where you were when you started this YouTube channel, right? Like you are a licensed real estate agent in the state of Louisiana in the greater Baton Rouge area. You know, I know that many realtors, they get into YouTube obviously to potentially generate leads for their business, right? And I'm sure that was a similar situation for you when you got into YouTube.
Well, I originally got into YouTube because I didn't want to do anything conventional as far as advertising was concerned. I had done the flyers and the phone calls and the door knocking and everything. And I'm like, you know what? This is exhausting. It's not only exhausting, I'm getting a lot of people that I really just don't like, and I ended up having probably the best sales year of my life. And in that sales year, I was the most miserable because I was dealing with people that I really wanted to drown in a puddle, they really wore me out. I was like, there's got to be a way for me to get my message out there without having to change who I am as a person just to accommodate certain people. So I was like, I was in bed because I was depressed. I had been depressed for like 6 months. And I ended up, I don't even know how I ended up on it, but I was on YouTube and I found a Gary V video. And he's like, if people aren't doing video, that's it. I mean, they're in the dust. You need to grab a camera now and start documenting and then getting into video right this very moment. And that, oops, sorry.
Oh, good.
I'm so sorry.
How many dogs do you have?
3.
Oh, wow.
Come here, dog.
We can have the dogs be a part of the podcast, honestly. I forget. There was somebody who I had on the podcast. It might have been Desiree who had like a dog come on as well.
Yeah, I have a dog cam. I don't know how to switch my cam. Hold on, let me see if I can change it. It won't let me change it. But I have a dog cam, and there's a camera down here. So when I do my own podcasts, I always have my dogs available. So, anyways, back to Gary V. So Gary V just basically said, grab your phone and start documenting your life, because if you're not doing this right now, then you are going to be left in the dust in a few years. And I'm like, I'm an idiot. I don't mind grabbing a camera. So I used to make these very, very goofy videos where I was playing the obnoxious kid and the horrible client. So it was basically, I was acting out all the horrible clients I've had in the last, year. And I put them all as characters in my videos.
Oh, really?
I did. If you go back into my older content, it's very silly, and it's always these ridiculous people, but people all know these people, they're definitely people you've met in your lifetime.
Like a skit, basically, right? Like kind of like a caricature of the worst kinds of real estate clients that you come across in your business, right?
Ever had. Yeah. So I would feature in this like kind of skit between little tips of buying and selling real estate. Had a great time doing that. Didn't get a lot of traction on that, but it was definitely got me in front of the camera. I have no problem being weird. And so it was a lot of fun for me. And I had been doing that for a good 2 years. And there was a video contest. And that's when my whole YouTube career completely changed after that video contest.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that with you, as far as that contest, because I know a little bit about that story, having heard you on another podcast talk about that. And I think you had just spoken to this individual who has helped you get your channel off the ground. But I'm curious about your comfort level with the camera. Were you somebody growing up that did like theater or like stage or anything like that? I mean, were you somebody that was making videos or filmmaking while you were growing up? I
was just naturally a dork like that. I don't have a problem making a complete idiot out of myself. If somebody said go do it, I would do it. If somebody said don't do it, I would do it. I was just one of those people like, don't dare do that. And I'm like, oh, forget it. I'm doing it, And so when I first started doing those videos and they were goofy, there were lots of people who were like, are you sure you want to put yourself out there like that? I mean, you're kind of not really showing yourself as professional. And I'm like, I don't care, all I want to do is attract the people that find this kind of stuff goofy and funny like I do. And if they don't, good, then I don't want them calling me. I'd rather make less money and be happy than have more money and have to deal with people that I don't want to deal with. So
yeah, that's something that is like a huge fear for most people. I mean, I think I deal with that quite a bit, even with doing this podcast. I remember having like another guest saying to him that, like doing a podcast is almost like being on a date with someone, but the difference is because you're broadcasting to the world, your audience is also like the other people who are listening or watching the show. So that can kind of be a bit awkward to deal with at times. But it seems like for you, you're able to kind of just put that in your back pocket and just go and not really have that weigh you down at all.
My first couple videos, I was definitely nervous, but then because you know how YouTube is, you throw a video out to the universe and nobody would see it. And I think it got 7 views, and I think 2 of them came from my mom and dad, and the other one came from my husband. So it was like, oh, well, no one's really watching this anyway. So I really had the freedom to be as ridiculous as I wanted to be. And that was fun. And then not shortly after, I had made a really silly video. And there's a site called The Lighter Side of Real Estate. And it was on Father's Day. And they asked if they could feature my video on Father's Day. And I was like, absolutely. So that was kind of cool. You know, like I had only done a handful of videos and they were willing to feature my goofy video.
Yeah, with real estate too. It's just one of those businesses or careers or professions where people like are putting up these like fronts, right? Like I mean, I have my dad actually has been a real estate agent for years, and you know, he does a good job of what he does, but there's always like this. Sometimes real estate agents at times, to me, they kind of can come across with like this aura of like desperation to like get the lead or get the sale. So there's like a fear there to like, oh, I don't want to repel this person because like I need the commission. I need to make money. And you have been able to again, like push that aside.
Well, I think the problem is that I didn't like that. I don't like being sold. I hate that when I know for a fact, like as soon as the words come out of their mouth, it sounds like a script, because I studied scripts, that I'm like, please stop talking to me and talk to me like a human being. Remove the script. And if they can't do it, I'm like, nope, we're not having a conversation anymore, because you cannot get off script. You can't have a human to human conversation. I'm tired of being sold. And I think most people are tired of being sold. And if you're completely honest with them and have a real conversation with them and hear them out with their wants and needs, you're going to have a much better interaction with them than you would be trying to follow the formula of a script. You know, like there's a script for how you knock on the door with real estate. There's a script on how you call people. There's a script for everything. And I'm like, why do you need a script? How did you forget to be a human being? What happened in society that we need to have all these scripts in order to have communications with people? It blows my mind. I'm just not like that. I can talk to a tree.
I feel like scripts, they're like a loose structure, right? Like they're like guidelines of how you should operate, right? Like I have like a list of questions here that I would like to ask you about, and like a list of topics that I want to cover with you in this conversation. But I know that I'm not going to get to all of them just because the conversation will go into different directions. And so there's so many people out there, and this is probably like also pertinent to YouTube as well, where they feel like I have to read it like word for word on this script that I put, like that I wrote or made. Like there's room to like ad lib, and I think that's probably where like a lot of the magic happens. Wouldn't you agree? Absolutely.
And I think one of the funniest things is when you start watching a video that you know darn well that they're reading from a teleprompter, because they're barely looking. They're like, they have the one eye like looking at the lens, and then they have the other eye looking at the teleprompter, and they're so robotic. They're having such a hard time like doing both, doing both. So it just takes time, and even with my own like scripts, I bullet point everything out. I bullet point what I'm going to say in a script. Matter of fact, this is my script for my last video. There's like 5 things written right on here and it's nothing, it just says one word. And then I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to say about this. And then I just talk. Whenever I'm talking to the camera and when I'm filming, that's what it is. It's a conversation with the camera, and I'm pretending that I'm talking to my audience through that camera, that one person. I'm trying to, be able to hear their pain points and tell them exactly what they need to hear when they're having questions about whatever it is I'm talking about.
So let's continue on with your story of the person that you met who kind of helped you take your channel to like the next level. Tell me about that experience, how that actually came to be.
Yeah. So there was a video creation contest, and what it was is you had to take stock footage that they had presented to you and make basically a commercial or a video on why someone should go to VidSummit. Like I wasn't even going to enter in. I had an idea. I was going to do it. And I talked myself out of it once I saw people turning in their videos, because they were like beautiful, heartwarming, very touching, color graded to death, epic videos. I mean, like, I was like, wow, there's no way that my idea would even fly with this kind of, what people are putting out there. And a friend of mine, he was like, Kristina, just do the video you want to do. I'm telling you, you'll win it. You'll win it if you do your video. So my idea, because I'm goofy, I told you that, was to make an infomercial. So I made an infomercial about VidSummit. And I only actually had one line in the whole entire video. I actually scripted the whole thing out and had a voiceover guy do the in-between stuff. But in between the video, all I kept on saying was, click it and buy a ticket. So the whole thing was this guy talking the whole thing out, and all he said were those 5 words: click it and buy a ticket. And it won. That won the top prize, which was an hour-long consultation with Daryl Eves and a free ticket to VidSummit. So I got that hour-long consultation, did everything he told me to, and then I went to VidSummit.
And before VidSummit, now of course people out there who aren't aware of VidSummit is a big conference for YouTube creators of all types, video creators and whatnot. And it's happening in September of this year, end of September. And Kristina, you actually have the great pleasure of being a speaker at this year's conference. But in terms of conferences, had you ever gone to conferences before? Had you ever collaborated and connected with other YouTubers in that kind of context?
That was my first video conference. I had gone to hundreds of real estate conferences, and before, I don't know if anybody knows this, but before my real estate career, I was a hairdresser. Oh, wow. So I've been to tons of those. Yeah. So, I mean, a conference is a conference. You go there, you get a lot of cool stuff. You get some great information. You go home, you're saying you're going to do a bunch of stuff, and you never do it. That's pretty much how conferences work. But when I went to this specific conference, there was so much I learned how I could really turn my YouTube channel into a business and how I could make real money off of it. I was like, I need to focus in and dial this in quite a bit. And what was really funny is that when I had that consultation with Daryl Eves, he told me there was some content that I should probably really start focusing in on, because he could see what, my audience was starting to really watch. And I did the video that he told me to make. And after he told me to make it, I pushed that, publish button. And I was waiting for the magic of YouTube to happen. All the views were going to roll in, right? In that first week, I had like 65 views. I'm like, another freaking YouTube guru that's full of garbage. I was so mad, but I was like, well, at least I didn't pay for that crap, But then when I'm at VidSummit, and it was like I had forgotten, he said it could take up to 21 days for this video to take off, right? I'm at VidSummit. It's probably day 19. And I look and I'm like, oh my God, this has over 1,000 views. And then I kept checking it. I'm like, hey, Neil, this has 3,000 views. And by the time we got on the airplane, it was like, it kept rolling, 6,000, 20,000, 30,000. And I'm like, I had over 1,000 subscribers that had subscribed to this video. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is the viral hit that I've always wanted. I've never had that moment. And I was like, whatever he tells me to do, whatever this man tells me to do is with my YouTube channel, I'm doing it. And then he had a course that he had opened up called Channel Jumpstart. At the time, it was like a beta tester. So he asked, would I be interested in being a beta tester for this course? And I'm like, well, duh, I'd be an idiot not to do it. And so I signed up, and that was it. That was it. Ever since then, I was like, it put all the pieces together that I didn't understand about YouTube, and it made me look at YouTube in a completely different way. It was mind-blowing. I was just so willing to learn whatever he had to say. I was just going to do whatever he told me to do.
Yeah, so what was your content like before then? Like, again, you were in the real estate niche, but real estate's there's a lot you can do in real estate. And so it seems like what you've done is you found, I've said this to someone else before, you found the niche within the niche. You found,
right.
And the videos that took off for you were on manufactured homes, tiny homes, affordable housing options, correct?
Right.
And so you were able, So you were able to kind of pivot in this direction where you're still talking about real estate, but now it's like a more specific area of real estate that wasn't necessarily being served. That audience who wanted that information wasn't being served it on YouTube.
Right. So if you do any kind of research on manufactured homes or tiny homes or whatever, you can see lots of channels that give you information about what they look like inside, or, how much they cost, or how many square foot they are. But they never really tell you about the whole buying and selling process of them. And here in Louisiana, we have them. And in some cases, unfortunately, there's a lot of predatory lending practices. And before I even met Daryl, I was like, I'm going to make these videos for these specific people because no one's giving them information on it. And those were the videos that were doing very well on my channel. And that's when Daryl told me to make more videos about that specific topic. And then as I got into it, I realized that my audience was really just looking for more affordable housing options, like something alternative to the standard traditional stick-built house that's connected to the ground. Some people want it on wheels. Some people want to be able to move it from place to place. Some people are open to modular construction. So I just started doing videos about that because there just isn't a lot of information. You can find all sorts of things about different companies and what they offer, but you never find out exactly how you purchase them, how you sell them, if they can refinance them, all those things. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and getting the chance to connect with Daryl through, the infomercial that got you that ticket. That got you that ticket to VidSummit, and then the one-on-one consultation. I'm sure before then, you were perusing YouTube, you're searching the internet, looking for guidance on how to build a YouTube channel. I
might have bought a course or two. Might have bought a few books. Yeah. Might have done a few things. Yeah.
And I want to know, how would you go, going back into time, if you could give yourself advice, where you were a beginner at that level, of how to research who is legit, who is reliable, who is credible. What advice would you give somebody who is trying to find somebody that can guide them in the process of becoming a YouTube creator, much like how Daryl has helped you?
I think everybody has the person that can speak to them. So my person that could speak to me, and like there's a lot of times he talks over my head, and I'm still learning all the time, but I understood enough to be able to, I could relate to him a lot better and understand the information he was giving me a lot better. I picked him, and I would have invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which I do, to get his information, because of the fact that I knew that he represented a lot of other bigger channels. But there's lots of YouTube experts that have their own qualifications, and they can help you take your channel to the next level if you need it to go that way. But you need to investigate if that's the person that speaks to you. If you have that first consultation with you and you feel like the personalities are not going very well and they're rubbing you the wrong way, find somebody else. If you happen to pick up their book and you're like, this reads like stereo instructions, this is so over my head, that's not the guru for you. You just really have to do some investigation, some deep diving, and see what they have out there. Most of them have their own YouTube channel, right? So you can see how they speak to the camera. Are they speaking your language? Is it in a way that you can comprehend and understand and implement on your own channel now with their free advice? If you think they're talking over your head, then find somebody else. There's so many out there. I just happen to pick the best. Yeah. I think Daryl's the best, so. What
about in terms of just avoiding some of these hucksters who are out there, right? Because there are a ton of people out there who are just like, buy my $5,000 course and you'll be rich. And in reality, you're actually just making that person rich. It's not even giving you any kinds of results. So what are some red flags that you would look out for if you were looking for a mentor today?
Well, there's some things that I already had known beforehand, and my first thing was I will never invest in anybody that doesn't have a successful YouTube channel first. So if they're promoting a YouTube success channel and then they have a video that says how to get from 0 to 100,000 subs in less than 9 months, and that video has 100 views on it, that's a red flag. They obviously can't do that because they can't even get it to happen for themselves. And I look at their overall performance to their channel. You can go on Social Blade, and check all that out. And then I always listen for inflated or misrepresented numbers. worse. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, I'm out of there. You know, I don't even want to hear another word because you've already misrepresented yourself. Can't stand it. But I'm like really in tune.
Yeah.
I have a good BS meter, I guess you'd say. So as soon as I hear it, I'm like, whatever, I walk away.
You know what else, Kristina, is interesting to me to hear you say there a moment ago is just like still being so open to learning. Like there's still so much that you feel that you have to learn about content creation. And like you said, you were on a call with Daryl today, or you've had to have a call with him, and there's still information that you are still processing and using to enhance your own journey today as a YouTube creator. How do you develop that? How do you maintain like this beginner's mindset of like, I don't know everything? Because like a lot of people could get to where you are, you know, in their YouTube journeys, 110,000 subscribers, and feel like, okay, I've cracked the code. I don't need to do anything else. I just got to keep doing what I've been doing over and over again. How do you embrace that mindset?
I know YouTubers that have done this for a very long time, and they will tell you how you do YouTube 5 years ago is not the way you do YouTube now. And then if you talk to the ones that have been started from the beginning, they'll say there's been like 10 different algorithm changes to how we make content in order to, you know, like they've had to learn. You have to always be a student of YouTube. Daryl Eve says that all the time. Even he, who I would consider the most brilliant man when it comes to YouTube, will say, I'm always studying YouTube. And I think the biggest thing that I learned from all of this is that algorithms sound like this mysterious, like computer system in the Netherlands that no one ever knows about. And they're just making random choices of people they're going to decide is going to make it big. But that's couldn't be further from the truth. And what I learned was the algorithm really is people watching. And if you can satisfy those people that are watching you, they will be sent out, that video will be sent out to more people. And if you satisfy those people and send out to more people, it's that YouTube is always testing your audience, and they will give it more of a test every single time if you continue to satisfy an audience. So that's the one thing I did learn. Learned it the hard way because I kept on trying to make these like, I you know, before I heard, you know, like you had to have this magic soup of extensive SEO keyword research. I'd spend a whole entire day finding the specific keywords, using keywords everywhere, and TubeBuddy and vidIQ and all these other things, by the way, which are very good tools and they have their place. But I should have never spent a whole entire day structuring a whole entire 250 word blog post in order to get the YouTube video found, because that never, ever worked. But I was so determined that it was going to work because that's what was taught to me. And every week I'm like, okay, this is it. I think I have the magic words now. This is it. I'm going to put it all together. And I would spend a whole day doing this. And then afterwards, hit the publish button and nothing. Hit the publish button, nothing. And then Daryl says, you kept doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results, but you still kept doing it. And I said, yeah. And he goes, you know, that's a sign of insanity. I'm like, well, duh. I mean, have you met me? I wear wigs in my videos, you know, like. But I wanted to win. I wanted to win on YouTube so badly. And I wanted to find an audience because I actually truly love making videos. I love putting together for some people, like putting together a quilt or making a cake or something. And you just want something that people would want to watch. If you're making a cake, you just want something that somebody wants to eat. You know, if you have a quilt, you want something that people go, oh, I want to curl up with. That's how a video is for me.
Yeah, it really sounds like you just have fallen in love with like the process of creation, right? And I think that's such it feels like that's such a critical, it is like a skill, right? Like to have when you are a creator, especially when you're starting out and you're not really getting any views, you know, your channel isn't really taking off the way that it would. You're not so, if you have this ability or this capacity to really just embrace the process of actually making things, then it allows you to get through those lulls where you're not doing too hot in terms of the views, right? Right.
But I think when people are in sales or using video for like some kind of business and they don't see that right away, then they're like, this is pointless. forget it. I'm not doing it anymore. Like, and then even when I started this, people all the time would be like, well, what's the ROI on that? You know, like, I don't really think YouTube is a long-term game. I think you should really like stick to Facebook. I mean, I had so many naysayers. And when I started on YouTube, there wasn't that many real estate channels. There was, you know, some that were really big. Of course, Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin, they were huge, but they talk a lot about investing in stocks and all that other stuff, including real estate. But what I was wanting to do was something completely different. And then there were a few others, and, you know, they had maybe 10,000, 30,000 subscribers, and they had been on for a while. But other than that, there wasn't that many real estate agents. Now there's tons, and they're all making videos very similar to mine, but they're doing it for their specific area. If you are doing this and you're just doing it for the lead source and you're just spitting out information and you don't enjoy it, that is going to resonate all through that camera. You know, people are gonna be like, boy, they come off kind of stiff, or boy, they really don't seem like they're enjoying themselves. You have to like it. You have to like it. If not, do something else. Or maybe long form content isn't necessarily for you. YouTube has rolled out YouTube Shorts. You know, do 60 seconds, talk about something, do something really fun. You can edit a lot of fun stuff in that 60 seconds and put everything into that 60 seconds and make a really good video instead of doing a long form video with lots of B-roll and a lot of talking. So just find your medium, stick to it, and like go all in. And that is the one thing I did do, is because I was on Facebook. Facebook turned into a platform that you had to pay to play in order for your videos to get found for a period of time, because it was like totally free. I would put everything on there and I was like, oh, look, 6,000 views, and just like that. And then it turned into pay to play, and I was like, I am not paying people to watch my videos. So that's when I really like focused in and dialed in YouTube as much as possible. I went all in, and everybody was like, what are you doing? That's so dumb. That is so dumb. I mean, your core audience is on Facebook. Why are you on YouTube? And I'm like, there's something to this. I'm doing it. If some 16-year-old kid can play video games in his room and make $1 million, I'm figuring this YouTube thing out.
I also am curious about just, embracing YouTube, when there is kind of like, when you hear all the conversations about the platform, a lot of it's, especially in the creator space, it seems to skew young. Like, I talked about this with another creator that I had on this podcast. The quote unquote top YouTubers, the biggest YouTubers are these people who are like in their early 20s or something like that, like a Mr. Beast or whatnot. But, being able to embrace the platform as an older adult like you are, and show people like, hey, it's not just like a platform for young adults or kids or anything like that. It's a platform for everybody. Is that something that you have ever thought about at all?
Are you calling me old?
No, I'm not calling you old. I'm just saying that you are of a certain age.
I'm just harassing you. I'm nearly 50 years old, and I never even thought about it, honestly. I didn't care. I just knew that there's people that are out there that they want to watch videos, and they're all shapes, ages, sizes, beauty skills. There's something for everyone. There's if you're into cars, there's stuff for cars. If you're into makeup, there's 40,000 makeup channels. If you're into fashion, there's tons of fashion channels. I just know whatever you want to know in this planet, I guarantee you there's a video on YouTube about it. And if there isn't, then you need to start making those videos.
Exactly. So as your audience has grown and you have more people watching your videos, does that ever get overwhelming for you at all, in terms of like the sheer amount of eyeballs that are giving you attention?
Yes.
I mean, I'm curious if you ever go through like imposter syndrome.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. That whole time during COVID, I was like, who the heck wants to hear from me talk about affordable housing options right now? I mean, it was like the world's ending. I had COVID depression so bad, and every time I turned on the camera, I had to hype myself up. Literally was like, I'd walk in circles. Some days I would be like, I'm going to film today, get all ready, and I could not bring myself to sit in front of the freaking camera to do it, because I'm like, who wants to hear from me? Like, who am I? But I got over that. I got over that. I still get nervous every single time. I'll get like tongue tied. My tongue will feel thick, and I'm like, I know what I want to say, and I'll start mid-sentence, and all of a sudden I'll just stop. Like everything just stops. Like, why did the vocal cords just stop working all of a sudden? And then I'll repeat myself so many times. My husband will be like, "Are you okay? Because you sound like a broken record." I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Somebody hit me in the back of the head to make it start back up again. But yeah, of course I do. I'm less intimidated, I guess, is the thing, but I still get nervous. That's it.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. I think there are many times on this podcast where I'm like asking somebody a question and I'm just like, where is this going? Like in my mind, I'm like about to ask somebody a question. I'm like, where is this actually going? And then I find my way eventually. Yeah, it is something that it's a real challenge to overcome for many people. And it stops people from like even getting started, is just this idea of knowing that you have something to say.
I've never pretended to be somebody else though. Mm-hmm. Honest to God, like I've never tried to emulate or copy anybody. So me being in front of camera has never been anybody else but me. So people all the time when they meet me, they're like, you're exactly what I thought you were going to be. They've already have established who they think I am. And then they meet me and they're like, you're exactly who I thought. And that's because I'm not faking it. Like it is what it is. I'm not faking it.
Are there other things that you do aside from just really embracing who you are as off camera while you are on camera to kind of combat some of the moments of imposter syndrome that you may deal with from time to time?
I think sometimes when I have like a block or I feel like I can't, like, I don't know how am I going to film this video and stuff. This is going to sound so weird, but you know what a Razor scooter is?
Oh yeah. I have one of those growing up.
Yeah, you probably have. Well, they make them for adults. And I requested during COVID a Razor scooter for an adult. So my husband got me one, and it is the coolest thing. It has these really large wheels on it. And I get on that thing and I just ride around the neighborhood. And sure enough, it's like those endorphins start and then the creativity starts. And I'm like, I'm ready to do this, you know. Exercise really does a number on you. Now, I'm not one for sweating. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and run a jog. No. But I do like getting on my scooter and riding around because I'm perpetually 12 years old and I haven't quite grown up. So I'm on my scooter.
Yeah. So kind of just doing these things to kind of get your mind out of what you're set out to do, right? Is like create your that video. Head. Yeah. Get out of your own head, essentially. That's
what the whole thing is, that you're in your own head and you start second guessing things that you were going to do. And you're like, well, that was stupid. And maybe I shouldn't have said this, and stop it. Just stop it. You know, and like sometimes I'll even leave mistakes in there. One time I was doing a video and it was, downpouring outside, big thunderstorm and everything else. And as I was saying the word, a crack of lightning hit at the same time. I'm like, that wasn't fake. That was real. I left that in the video. You know, those are the kinds of things that it's real. It's a real life. Things happen, you know, lightning storms happen, and I just leave it.
And I imagine too, like when you have left those moments in, they probably like generate some engagement as well with people. Like if somebody notices that or whatnot, people notice like those real moments when that aren't part of the script.
Yeah. I leave them in. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I just, whatever happens. I've had dogs come in. I do live streams and my dogs will come in and they'll bark and everything. And I'll always apologize. And everybody in the chat will always say, oh, you have dogs? Let's see them. And then I'll turn on my puppy cam for them to see them. It's just, I work from home.
Yeah.
You know, life happens.
Yeah. And it's cool because like when you're live streaming and whatnot, and they know that you have dogs, it adds like that element of humanity to it. Cause sometimes I think we can, as we're mindlessly scrolling through our screens on our cell phones or watching, you know, videos on our TV or on our computers, we kind of forget that there's like another person, that is an actual human being on the other side of the screen. So it seems like you're able to, that is something that you're able to kind kind of convey in those streams that, hey, I'm an actual person here. We're interacting. This is like an actual conversation between us.
Yeah, I used to do a live stream where I did real estate trivia, and every time I would start the real estate trivia, I would have a skit at the beginning and a skit at the end, where my husband would like act out this stupid thing in front of a green screen, and I would edit it all out and put it in there. But now, my live streams are very real estate related, so I don't do any kind of little skits in there anymore. I kind of miss all that stuff, but it wasn't really necessarily what people didn't really take me seriously when I did that kind of stuff. And so I was like, all right, I gotta tone this down, even though I love it.
Well, see, that's super interesting to me too, in terms of just like, you're willing to do all of these things, right? Like, you kind of, you embrace like this goofy side of yourself, but you're not, like, some people are so afraid of doing something that could be construed in the wrong way. Whereas like, if you make a mistake, you're able to like adjust and adapt and move past it, or just change the direction. And it's not like the end of the world if you've done one thing in the past and now you're doing something completely different moving forward.
When I first started, though, those kinds of things would have like broke my soul, because I was like, I had this, like thing in my head, and I was being an artist, they would have broke my soul. But now I'm like, what do I need to do? Tell me what I need to do, because I want people to see my videos, like, do I have to take this out? Should I add more of this? Do I need to improve my hook? What is it that I need to do? And the videos that do bad, I already know what I did wrong, like when I have an audience retention that's under, 60%, I already knew it was going to be under 60% because I didn't do what I thought I needed to do, or I ran out of time and I could have done it better. And that's the whole thing, is that every single video I learned something new that I could have done to make it better. I did one recently and I actually had to get it out within 2 hours. I interviewed somebody. I had to chop it up and put it out within 2 hours because it was a time sensitive video. The video is doing well, but the audience retention on it is the pits. And I knew it was going to be. And I'm just like, oh, that makes me so angry. But it is what it is. I got it out there. It was time sensitive. I got it done.
Yeah. So it's like in sports where you have this idea of like a next play mentality, like next video, maybe this one doesn't hit, but like you said, you'll learn from like the mistakes that you made in that one, and then just improve upon it in the next video that you make. That's all it is. That's all I ever do. I'm always looking to see in my analytics too, like after it's been published for a little while, what is it that people went back and rewound? Because you'll have like little spikes in your audience retention. I'm like, what was it in that video that I did that made them do a little audience retention? And one thing I did, which was I was walking down the stairs too slowly, so I sped up the clip. And people like went crazy and kept rewinding that back and forth, and me running up and down. Like, I'm like, somebody just sat there and just went, woo, 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 watching me go up and down the stairs. I had this huge spike just from that. So it's always interesting to see what people pause on and what they do. So I'm always trying to learn from that and add that in my next video, that element, something that will make people do that, rewind again, spike up that audience retention. Were you ever somebody that was like a number cruncher at all before you went into YouTube, like looking into these analytics? Because you have to be like a data scientist essentially these days as a YouTuber. It's not just only about like making the videos and being entertaining or educational. It's actually looking at, like you're alluding to here, a lot of the analytics and ways to improve. So I'm assuming that it's just something that you've just learned as you've gone along.
And it's something I still struggle with. There's still analytics that have been taught to me that I don't quite grasp, and like I go through the program that Daryl has. No, not once, not twice, probably 4 or 5 times, because I'm not that kind of numbers person. And as a real estate agent, whenever people have questions about their numbers for their loans and stuff, I'm like, this is the lender. This is the person that does I'll tell you everything you need to know about the house, but I'm not running numbers for you. I hand that off to somebody else. I'm not a numbers person. I was never good at math, which is weird because both my kids are aces in math.
Really?
Like knock it out of the park. So weird. But I'm always learning something new every single time. And I've learned that a lot of the numbers I was focusing on previous to the knowledge that I have now was not necessarily the best numbers to focus on. And again, you have to really what are people watching? What are they rewinding? What are they continuing to watch? And that's what you make content on.
So what were those metrics that you were focused on before that you've now realized these aren't really like the right key performance indicators that I should be using to judge the success of my videos?
Well, I would do this thing that like soon as the video came out, I would always like check the phone, I was checking the phone and see if it would made it through that 1 through 10. Right. And if it was released and it wasn't in the number one spot or at least past a 5, I'm like, this is a dud, forget it. And I wouldn't even pay attention to it. And then sure enough, sometime later it would end up taking off. And just because it isn't at a number 1 the minute it's released does not mean it's a dud. Just because it's a number 1 when it is released doesn't mean you have a winner. I had that happen too recently. And I was like, I have a winner video. And another thing I learned was the type of traffic sources that you get and use for videos. I was always told that the best way and the only way to grow a channel on YouTube was through YouTube search. And search traffic is fantastic and wonderful, but it's not going to necessarily make your channel blow up. And that was the first thing that Daryl told me. He's like, you have an excellent channel for YouTube search. I'm like, thank you. He's like, you're never going to get the numbers you want with this. And I went, oh, well, what do I do? Like, how do I fix that? And he's like, well, I can tell you, take my program, it's just a totally different way of looking at it. I kept, when I was doing, I know I'm all over the place, but when I started my real estate channel, I was making real estate videos for everybody. Buyers, sellers, homeowners, people that are using home apps. I was like anything. I was just spaghetti against the wall method is what it's been told to me. That's what I was doing. And I was hoping that something would stick. And it wasn't until I was like, look, focus, do this, then I was like, oh, it like opened up a whole new world to me. And once I focused in on making those type of homes, those videos for affordable housing options, then it's when I really found an audience that was willing to listen. And everybody that's been doing channels for more than 2 years, I guarantee you have an audience. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. I want to talk to you, Kristina, also about now, like the content creation process for you. You had mentioned to me that like right before we hopped on that you edit all your videos yourself. You're filming pretty much on your own too. Like I imagine maybe like
correct.
Once in a while you might have your husband or maybe your kids like shoot for you or not at all.
Nope. Okay. So the one thing you'll learn if you have a spouse that if you even ask them to push the button, for some reason they feel like they need to adjust something. And it's not, you don't want them to adjust anything, but they're like, but there's too much of the background. No. This isn't your decision. This isn't your video. Just push record. And they can't help themselves. They have to mess with things. So no. I have control problems. And if they start messing with stuff, literally my inner mean person comes out like, do not touch it. Just push record. So no, I record it myself. I do let my husband record some like B-roll stuff on his own. I tell him just grab the car. This is where I want you to film. Have a good time, and he'll do that. I'll take my gimbal out and he'll film some stuff. But I do it all and edit all myself. I script it all myself, and I do it. It's my thing. That's my jam.
What is like the big challenges that you face in terms of handling everything yourself?
I don't know. Like I guess the biggest challenge. It would be like, it is editing probably, but I enjoy doing it. Some days I wish I was like, man, I don't want to edit today, but I know this service. You've probably heard of this company. I think there's a service called Video Husky. I think they do that. There is a service. It's called Video Husky, and they deliver your videos 1 to 2 business day turnaround if you are interested. Videohusky.com. And I'm such a control freak. I have, there's only been 2 times that I've actually, no, I'll take that back, 3 times that I've allowed somebody else to edit a video for me. The first time I gave the video over to who I thought was, well, I still would consider them a friend. I gave it to them 2 weeks prior to when the video needed to be released. Back and forth. I would say things, they come back to me. It wasn't what I said. And then I would send out a message. Another 2 days later, I would get messages back. I mean, it was awful. It was awful. It was so bad. And then here I am. I didn't even want to edit this video because Yeah, I mean, for numerous reasons, but I ended up having to edit it. There I am sitting there on a Monday evening, because it has to go out on Tuesday, editing this all out from scratch. I've never been so angry in my life. I'm like, I trusted somebody that had more than enough time to get this done for me. The second time I had one done, it was like the communication barrier was just too much. I couldn't do it. Like they didn't understand me. I didn't understand them. And then the third time, they promised me a delivery date of a certain time. And then I'm like, where's my video? And they're like, oh, sorry, we'll have it to you by Saturday. Well, I didn't even get it until Monday, So they were late, not once, but twice. So I was like, I have a hard time. And I don't even think, my videos aren't even that hard to edit. I don't know what the big deal is.
So these were, one was a friend, and were the other like a freelance editor that you had worked with?
One was a friend. The second one was a video service company. Wasn't a big fan. And then the third one was somebody I had met, and I let them do some shorts for me, and they did a fantastic job for shorts. And in all, when the video came out, it was exactly what I wanted. It just ended up being too long. Like, I had to wait too long for that. I still think that there is opportunity for that relationship to be a good one. I just
wrangle them in.
Wrangle them in. Like, be a little bit more demanding, maybe.
Yeah, that's like the other part of the process of, like, if you are going to outsource your editing to somebody else, it's like there's still work involved. It's not like you just dump the footage to somebody and then they have at it and produce like the exact vision that you want. You actually have to like give them direction. You have to, give them clear instructions, organize the files in a way that they can kind of process everything correctly. And then at the same time, there has to be these expectations of when the videos are going to be delivered on time. And it becomes, I can understand where it's like, well, I could deal with that, or I could just do it myself. Like, it seems I would much rather like not have to like figure all of that out when I've already figured out how I want my videos edited.
Right. And I will say that I can tell immediately as soon as I see somebody's video. It's very common with real estate agents. You can tell they just send over a bunch of video clips, send it to somebody to cut it up and throw it up as a video. And then they were like, why is my video not successful?
Exactly.
I have it professionally edited. And I'm like, dude, do you know anything about video structure whatsoever? Like, what in the world is going on here? Read this book and then organize it like that. Everybody wants a plug and play.
Yes.
They just want to do something and then give it to somebody else to make perfection, and then they want to just go on with their lives. There's so much more to it than that. And if that's your if that's your goal and you just want to plug and play and just get leads, you're going to have a hard time making it on this platform. It's just not how things work. You really have to put some real thought, heart, and effort into it in order to be successful.
Yeah, any kind of outsourcing or just hiring, if you're like expanding your team as a creator or whatnot, there is still going to have to be some level of collaboration because you're dealing with like another human being.
I know.
You do want to let them spread their creative wings, but at the same time, there has to be like a level of creative collaboration that happens between you and anybody that you hire to work for you. I want to talk to you also about thumbnails.
Oh yeah,
because your thumbnails are on point.
Thank you.
They are very good. They remind me, and I know you're friends with this other realtor who's based in Phoenix, Javier Vidana. I love his videos. I've sat in on a couple of his live streams as well. Uh-huh. He's someone similar to you who seems like he embraces his personality as well instead of trying to
and we're good friends.
Be somebody he's not.
Yeah, I like Javier.
I want to ask you about that as well, but in terms of creating your thumbnails, what is the process for that? What does that look like for you?
Before I even make the video, before I even touch the video, before I even hit the record video, I create the title and the thumbnail first. All that time that I used to spend on SEO, and remember I said like ridiculous, making 250 word blog posts and stuffing it with a bunch of keywords so I could get my video found, but it never worked, by the way. I used that time to focus in on what is it exactly my audience wants to watch? What kind of video can I make for them so they will continue to watch? And what kind of thumbnail is it that they're going to click on? What will look good for them to click on? And that's it. I spent a lot of time doing it, and I will I will make a thumbnail, then I'll make another thumbnail, and I'll keep tweaking that thumbnail a good 10 times before I'm like, okay, this one's it. But I also have some backups just in case that one isn't it, because sometimes what you think is it may not be it. So you have to kind of keep playing with it. And I'm always adjusting. I'm always analyzing. I'm always trading out thumbnails. I don't change them out too much. You know, that's another thing. People will have like a picture of them with their big noggin in there, and then the next thumbnail you see is just it's a completely different thumbnail, and you're like, how can you even test that if that even worked? Maybe it was just your face needed to be off of it. You know, it's like a completely different thumbnail. So Daryl always says small tweaks, big peaks. So if I have a thumbnail, I'll have like one that has maybe like some fire in it, and then the next one maybe the sign will be on the other side. You know, like just little things to see if people will click on it, because when I have the one that I'm finished with, I'm pretty sure that's the one they're going to click on. And if it doesn't work, what is it that didn't make it work? So I'm just adding different elements or removing elements in order to see if that's the thing that kind of triggered it the wrong way.
What tools are you using to make your thumbnails?
Okay, this is one so easy. So everybody has a cell phone. I take all of my images with my cell phone. I use everything in portrait mode, so it's blurry behind the actual image that I'm focusing in on. And I take a picture with that, and then I will use Snapseed to enhance the picture. And Snapseed's free, by the way. It's a Google download, Snapseed. I'll download that. I'll sharpen the image. I'll add clarity. I'll do some good saturation on it, but not to the point where it looks like a cartoon. And then I save it. Then I upload it to a program called PicMonkey. And PicMonkey is the easiest editor that you can use for your thumbnails. I know that everybody loves all the other editors. Some of them are super, super pricey. Some of them give you like these specific templates that you can use, and you can tell immediately like, oh, that's that's company's template. No, start from scratch, study other YouTube thumbnails and create ones that are similar to it. Don't copy them exactly. Don't be that person. And do something similar to it and make your own version of that thumbnail that was successful on those other channels. And that's what I do. PicMonkey, love it. Fantastic program.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. We'll go ahead and list that in the show notes for people to check out if they're looking to up their thumbnail game, so to speak.
Yeah. It even cuts out the image for you. Like it will cut the whole image out.
Oh yeah. That's like one of the hardest parts too. If you're like using Photoshop.
Yeah. All you have to do is literally go remove background and click the button, and it removes the background. And then if you want like the white line around it, and then it says add outline, and you click add outline, boom, done. Wow, so easy.
I would have never thought that it was that simple to make your thumbnails, because like the way that they're very good. Like I look at them, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to click on that. Like the way that and you notice that too with like the clarity that you're adding and the additional saturation to make the images pop a little bit more, because that does help, right? Because these are thumbnails. They're small little images on the screen, and it allows them to stand out when you're adding those additional effects to them.
And that was another thing. I tried to get somebody to make me a thumbnail, and every single time I'm like, why aren't they understanding me? I don't know why people quit using their phone. Like nobody will talk to somebody. They always have to use a messenger or some kind of weird outside source of like, oh, use Frame.io in order to have a conversation with. Pick up the phone. Yeah. And I could say all of this to you in 10 seconds, but instead we're going back and forth on this stupid app in order to get one thing done. You know, like it's just so ridiculous. So that's another control thing. I end up making my own thumbnails. I enjoy it. I love it very much.
I'm curious, Kristina, how much is your phone still a part of your content creation process?
I use my phone a lot. Like people are surprised. Now, like when you see me sitting at my desk, I have a Canon M50. When I'm doing my live streams, I have a Canon Rebel T7i. This is just a DSLR camera. I use that for my live streams. And then for like all my B-roll is with my phone. Every house that you've ever, like if you're a real estate agent in the area, every video that you've ever seen for me with a house is filmed with my phone. Everybody's always shocked always shocked that I film every house with a phone. They're like, this looks like it was done with a really amazing camera. I'm like, your phone is a really amazing camera. Amazingly enough, I mean, you've spent pretty good money on the machine right here, this phone, and it has an awesome camera on it. Now, the new iPhones have like the 3 cameras. Man, those wide shots. Wow. Get a gimbal, use your phone. I do that all the time. All my B-roll shots are with my phone. Every single one of them.
What kind of gimbal do you have?
Oh, it's a DJI.
Yeah. Gotcha. Is it a gimbal that can be also used for your DSLR, or is it just specifically for your phone?
No, these ones are just for your phone, or like a little GoPro. But I have the and the thing is I bought that really good Ronin S, for my camera,
exactly,
for houses, because I was going to get, I'm getting a super fancy, but honestly, I did so much better with my phone. I ended up never using the clips. I'm like so embarrassed. I hope my parents never hear this, because they were the ones who bought me that gimbal. I'll sell that thing one day, but I can't do that.
Put it on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. We won't tell anybody.
Oh, my mom and dad would find it in a heartbeat. There's no way.
We're already like an hour into this conversation. If they stumble upon this podcast, they would have to get to this very point of the conversation to find out that you're considering that. So your secret is safe with us, I think.
I think it is. They're in their 80s. They are ones to podcast. I can say that.
Yeah, exactly. Alluded to this a moment ago. It was mentioned, you're friends with Javier Vidana, another realtor who is doing YouTube very well. How did you two connect and come together and make things together?
This is a really good story. So I've been doing YouTube for a little while, and then all of a sudden I stumble across this kid's channel, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's only been doing it for a little bit of time and he's already got huge views. I've been doing this forever. I was so mad. So I'm like, there's got to be some kind of secret sauce that he's doing. There's something he's doing, because I was like, I've been doing this longer than this kid has, and I want to know how he's doing it. So I call him up, and he was so snarky with me. He was like, yeah, well, I mean, you just pick up the camera and go. And I'm like, no, look, I'm not a novice at this. I know how to make a video. I want to know, is there I want to know what I'm doing wrong. Can you take a look at it? So he obliged me for a few minutes, and then we got off the phone. I'm like, I don't think that dude likes me very much. And then I went through the whole thing with VidSummit, right? And then at that time, when I called him, I think he had 25,000 subscribers, and I was at 3,200 subscribers. And then he went to a conference, and somebody said, oh, have you seen Kristina Smallhorn's channel? And he was like, that name sounds familiar. He scrolls through his videos, and he was like, oh my God, she has more subscribers than me. And he calls me up. He's like, hey, Kristina, yeah, I just want to say congratulations on your channel. Can you give me the heads up? And I'm like, matter of fact, I can. I met this guy. And then he even asked me, he's like, why are you telling me exactly what you did in order to get to this point? I'm like, because it's YouTube. There's a million people that can watch your stuff as much as my stuff. I as real estate agents, it's hard for people to not realize that we're not competition. There's so many people that can choose from everybody. It's
strange too, because you guys are in different markets as well. You're in Louisiana and he's
right, but we have a wider audience. We equally have a wide audience of people throughout the United States, and some of our audience does overlap. There will be videos that he's made that I'll make, and our audiences will overlap. It doesn't make it any less. I'm not like, these are my subscribers, they can't watch your stuff. I mean, that's just absolutely petty and stupid, especially in the YouTube space. The more you collaborate and get along with others, the bigger your channel is going to be. So stop looking at other YouTubers in this space as competition, even if they're in the same market as you. I know sounds absolutely insane and crazy, but I'm telling you, collaboration will get you a lot further than competition.
And so now you two collaborate quite a bit. He appears on your live streams, right? And you do his live streams from time to time. So that leads me to the next topic that I want to discuss with you is just the live streaming element. And we did touch on this a little bit earlier on in this conversation. You have been doing live streams though since the very beginning of your channel, correct?
Oh, probably I probably have been doing it maybe 4 or 5 months before I started doing my first. I did my first live stream as as a joke. I dressed up like a Cindy Lou Who from from that movie, I had my hair all up in a big bow. I was like, this is my first YouTube live stream. And I didn't even know what I wanted to talk about. I was just talking. And so I was so nervous, and I'm like, no, I'm going to beat my nerves on this. So I just like, how could I turn it into a show? And then I came up with the real estate trivia show, and it grew and grew and grew. I mean, this thing turned into a conglomerate. I mean, I had skits, I had sound effects, I had people that came in. I mean, there was all sorts of stuff. I had named people in the chat, but it never grew. As much as I enjoyed it and had a great time, I still only had 30 to 40 people that showed up. I'm like, how can I make this better? What is it that I'm doing wrong? And slowly but surely, I've just figured out people, they don't want trivia. They want to hear about the real estate market. And so that's what I did. I had stopped doing the trivia show, and I kind of refocused and started looking at other YouTube channels that were successful in my space and what they were talking about and on their live streams. And some things I wasn't going to implement, and other things I was. And I realized the more simple I kept it and made it more about the audience, the better it was going to be. And that's exactly what happened. First time I hit live, I think I had 28 people on there. That first time I switched gears. And then the next week I had 75. I was like, ooh, that's good. That was good. And then it was 100. Then it was 200. Then it was 400. Then it was 600. Then it was 700. So there's an average between 400 to 700 people that show up every single Sunday to do a live stream with me where we talk about the real estate market. Matter of fact, last week I took off and I got a firestorm of messages on Instagram. Is there no live today? Is there no live today? Is there no live today? Like they were like, what's going on?
It's become part of your audience's like routine now that when you don't show up, they're like, what's going on? You've completely thrown me off for a loop here.
Yeah, I was like, to make it up for you, I put out a video. So I had put out a video last Sunday. It's actually a really top performing video. It's about Elon Musk.
So I'm curious, does the preparation for a live stream differ at all from like the preparation of creating a scripted video?
It doesn't change as far as the thumbnail and the title of the video. I spend just as much time creating and making those as I would for a video. And you can tell there is no difference. A lot of times when you go on other people's channel, they'll like have live written on it, and it's very distinctly different than the other part of their content. And I wanted to make this an extension of my content. I didn't want it to look different. I wanted to be something that people would want to watch afterwards. Because a lot of times when you see that, they were like, oh, that's just a live stream, and they'll just skip right past it. I wanted these videos to have longevity after the live stream, and that idea and thought process has worked out for me. If you look, like even though I had 600 to 700 people on that live stream, afterwards I'll get 20 to 30,000 views of those live streams after the fact that they've been published. So it's a win for me. I like it very much.
And so now you're having, you talk about the real estate market, but you are having, what you do that's very interesting is that you have realtors from basically like around the country kind of talk about what's going on specifically in their own markets. I'm curious, like, how do you find those realtors to come on your show, or do they find you? And then how do you plan and book all of that out?
So I have a YouTube group myself. Me and a guy named Malcolm Lawson, who's also a real estate agent, run a group called YouTube Real Estate Mastermind. And most of those people are YouTube real estate agents. So I go into their channel and I'll make sure that they have a good sound set up and see if they're live streaming, and then I'll ask them. There's one guy I have on regularly. There's a couple guys I have on regularly, and then I think I'm gonna have this one girl on regularly too. So I think it might be just rotating them out, and then have like a secret guest like once a month, I guess. But the more versed you are in getting on a live stream and having a conversation, the better the live streams are. And if you're planning on doing this, please investigate the person you're planning on having in the live stream, because nothing is worse when you plan a guest and then as soon as they get, like, you're having this whole conversation, and then as soon as you hit that live button, they're like a zombie and they can barely talk. You're asking them a question and they answer like one word answers, and they're not having a conversation, and you're having to fill in the gap. That is painful. And I've had that happen, and I make a big joke out of it. I'm like, okay, man, a few words. It looks like I'm running this on my own, guys. So if you're going to direct your questions, direct them to me, because it seems like someone's a little camera shy.
Oh my gosh. So what's happened in those situations after that? Are they just like, I'm so sorry, I just like clammed up or
a little bit? Sometimes they're like that. Or I usually apologize. I apologize for giving them so much crap, but I can't help it. Like, I'll just say, I'm sorry that I gave you so much crap, but I can't help myself, because if you're not going to talk, you asked for it, and you know how I am. So,
gotcha.
And I've only had one person not show up. I had a no-show. That one really upset me, because I had pre-planned for that ahead of time. I was given slides by this person. They had done everything and ahead of time. And then, like, you know how you have like a feeling ahead of time, like something didn't quite feel right, and so that's when I like emailed them like 30 minutes till showtime. Then it was like 10 minutes. Are you going to show up? Because I need to check your audio. Like, let me know now. And then it was showtime. I'm like, it's starting right now. I'm waiting for you. Never showed up. Never replied. Nothing. And I was like, holy cow! I hope this person isn't dead. Like, I was very genuinely concerned. And then the person who had recommended them to be on the show, they were like, nope, he's very much alive. I drove past his office, his car sitting right there. I'm like, wow, why would you do that? Why would you put somebody through the whole entire thing? And they had confirmed it, everything. So strange. And all I wanted was an explanation, or I'm sorry, or whatever. You could have said anything, but not just, I don't know, people are weird. There was
no follow-up beyond that? Like, did this guy ever say, hey, this is what happened? Or It just went radio silent from there?
Yeah, I even sent an email and said, I hope everything's okay. I'm genuinely concerned for you, because I know that you said that you were really looking forward to being on the show, and you had confirmed. I hope everything's all right. Just let me know. Nothing. Not a peep.
Wow, that's a bummer.
I know, right? And like, people are weird.
Yeah, people. I like, my thought would be that this guy probably got, like, my compassionate self wants to think maybe he just got into his own head and was like, I'm just like gonna avoid this now. Like, I'm gonna back out of my commitment. But still, even if you did feel that way, you gotta like reach out and say, I'm
Don't
sorry.
Be a dingleberry.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason to be a dingleberry. Just say, look,
give people the courtesy.
If he had said that, if he had said, look, I'm all of a sudden extremely terrified and I just can't do it, I'd be like, all right, cool. And I could have gotten somebody within that 30 minutes, but I kept on counting on him to show up, so I couldn't even call up other people to be there. So I was trying to run that live stream by myself for 30 minutes. And that is not nearly as fun as having someone else on the other side and debating back and forth, because not every one of my guests and I agree on the same things. Things change, in this real estate market all the time. And what I used to think at the beginning of the 2020 pandemonium is not the same thing I think now. And we would get there's been some heated arguments in those live streams, and it's been fun. It's fun. Like, the audience didn't like them, they liked me, and I'm like, they're giving good points, guys. Don't hate them because it's not me. Not everybody has to agree with me.
Right.
That's one of the best conversations, in my opinion.
Right. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, Kristina, but I think we'll have to postpone some of it for a future conversation if you're down. But
sure.
One of the things that I do want to chat with you about as we kind of close in at the end of this conversation is just using the platform that you have for the greater good. I've heard and I've found out that one of the things that you are passionate about is providing homes or helping veterans who are homeless get into homes. I'm just curious about where the idea came from to kind of use this audience that you've built up to spearhead a cause that's greater than just obviously buying and selling homes on behalf of people.
That was one of those things, like, every year you sit down and it's in your New Year's resolution and you have to think bigger than you have to dream the biggest dream, right? And my biggest dream is and it's kind of like, things change. It isn't, I don't know if I can necessarily just give it to veterans. It would have to be a homeless coalition. So throughout the United States, every single real estate agent throughout the United States, there's always one agent in every state that's doing some kind of tiny home or community for homeless people. Some of them are focused on vets, or some of them are just focused on the homeless itself. My goal, my ultimate goal, is to have a manufactured or tiny home delivered to all 50 states at one time. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be something that I video for my own channel. Matter of fact, that's not even what I want to happen. What I want to happen is to have one of these really big YouTubers that addresses it to younger people, so they have the idea to want to do this for the future. I don't even want my name on the video. I want them to show this to young people so they know that they should support a cause, like helping people that are much less fortunate than you are. And it can be done. Just think bigger. And that's my dream. 50 houses across 50 states.
Well, that's quite an inspiring mission that you have there. And it's very cool. I mean, it's inspiring that you've built this audience for yourself and you're thinking of other ways. I mean, it seems like in general, this is a way that you think in terms of like giving rather than like, what do I get out of this particular situation, even like as you were alluding to with collaborations and whatnot.
I find that gross when people are looking in, when people, that to me, as soon as they say what's in it for me, I'm like, ugh. Like, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
If you're only looking for yourself, then what are you doing it for? Like, I don't know. That's just me. When people say, well, what's the ROI on that? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Get out of my face.
Exactly.
Because I don't do it for that. I do it because I love people. I know that sounds so weird. Everybody always says I want to help people, but I genuinely do. Javier's like that. He's like, I genuinely just want to help people.
Yeah, no, I can see that in terms of like the content that he makes, where I've watched one of his videos on like how much house can you actually afford, and actually laying out the fact that, hey, your lender is actually giving you an estimate based on your gross income, not your net. So how much do you have after all of the things that you need to pay for first, like taxes and whatnot? And I think that's super cool. I mean, because again, a lot of realtors out there, they're very like desperate to like get the sale, and it really comes across as like very sincere and genuine. That it's like, hey, you could buy a house, or you may not want to buy a house based on this information that I'm trying to pass forward your way.
One of the best feelings I have as a real estate agent right now is I never need the check. So when I'm working with somebody and they're like, well, you're just telling me that because you just want to sell a house, I'm like, I assure you with every fiber of my being, I don't need the check. I want you to get the best deal possible. So if you don't want to sign this, we can move on to the next house. Like this doesn't faze me in the least bit. Matter of fact, my listing, I was like, if we want to walk away from this, I don't have a problem. We'll pull a sign up right now. It does not hurt my feelings. That YouTube has given me that ability that at any point with any client at any time, I can say to them, it's okay. I do not need the check.
That's cool. And it's like, that's where it's almost like that's where you started with this whole YouTube journey, was just to not feel like you were indebted to like these clients who weren't good fits for you, right? Like you're in a position now where, hey, I'm working with people who I really want to work with, rather than like, I'm working with you because I really need this paycheck today.
I know. And that's a desperation feeling. I've been there, like in that, oh my God, if this does not close, I'm in big trouble. 2008, the housing market, wasn't necessarily the best in the whole entire world. My husband lost his job, and that I'm like, if this doesn't go through, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. We were already eating the beans out of a can, like that was it. Please, baby, let this thing close. Yeah,
it was a rough time. Well, Kristina, as we wrap up here, one last thing I want to ask you about is advice that you would give to your younger self, when you were starting this YouTube channel. What's something that you would tell yourself as you were getting started on this journey of where you are today as a YouTuber, that maybe would have saved you a whole lot of pain that you had suffered on the path to where you are today?
I know this is going to sound really strange to you, but I don't regret any of it. I don't know if I would have changed anything, because I really learned in the pace that I learned, and I think it was the right time. Sure, would I have wanted it sooner? Yeah, I would have wanted it sooner, but I don't think I would have strived as hard unless I went through the pain that I went through at the beginning. I wouldn't change a thing. I think it happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
Awesome. Well, Kristina, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. For everybody out there listening and watching, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on YouTube and everywhere else on the internet?
Well, it's just my name on YouTube. It's Kristina Smallhorn. And if you want to find me on Facebook and you're a real estate agent and you want to do more real estate related content for YouTube, I have a YouTube group on Facebook called YouTube Real Estate YouTube Mastermind. So you can just find me there. And then I'm like Your Real Estate Whisperer on Instagram. And then it's my name on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to connect over there, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you again to Kristina Smallhorn for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. But before you go, I've got a couple quick things for all of you. First of all, if you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, share it with someone who you think would find the content valuable. And second, you can find the show notes for this episode and previous ones over at www.videocraftshow.com. And third, if you're a content creator struggling to structure, organize, script your ideas, we've got a resource for you. Get a copy of our free script template. Using it can help you structure your videos and save you hours of time from filming in the process. To download it, go to videocraftshow.com, or if you're watching the show right here on YouTube, find the link in the description below and just subscribe to our email list. It'll get delivered straight to your inbox right after you sign up. And if you're enjoying the show, make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you can review and rate podcasts. Apple Podcasts is honestly the only place where I know you can do that, but I'm sure that there are other platforms where you can do that as well. Leave a comment down below and let me know that there are other places where you can rate and review podcasts, because again, all I know is Apple Podcasts. We're always just trying to make the show better, so anytime we hear from you, you're giving us feedback, it helps us improve the show. And finally, if you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment too, because we read and respond to all of them. In fact, I'm doing most of that right now. So please engage with us. Just engage to the point where it's so overwhelming that I start pulling my hair out and I'm like, oh my God, why did I ask for so many comments? This is a mistake. God has forsaken me. And now I am being hit with way too many comments that I can actually deal with. Oh my gosh. Well, anyways, thank you to my team, Nikki Vicente, Ingrid Saraiba, as well as Paulo Lopez for all of their assistance for putting this piece of content together. If you want videos edited to look just like this in terms of their quality, in terms of all these cool little graphics and effects and these transitions, I mean, look, I can snap my fingers and something magical will happen. That wasn't me. That was my editor, Ingrid. Shout out to Ingrid for doing an amazing job again. Ingrid is part of a stable of editors who work at, you guessed it, Video Husky. And if you want your videos edited to look just like this, then visit videohusky.com to learn more. We will see you next week. I will see you next week on another episode, another edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky.